The first time I unlocked the front door to the house my grandmother bought for me, I cried. 6 months later, my own parents changed the locks, moved in without my permission, and told everyone it had always belonged to them. They thought Grandma would never find out. They were terribly wrong. My name is Olivia Harper. I'm 35 years old, a pediatric occupational therapist, and for most of my life, I believed that if I worked hard enough, my parents would finally be proud of me. Instead, they spent years reminding me that my older brother, Kyle, was the child who mattered. Kyle wasn't a bad person when we were young. He simply grew up believing every door would open for him because Mom and Dad always pushed it open first. If he crashed his car, they paid for another. If he quit a job, they blamed his boss. If I earned something, they called it luck. If Kyle received something, they called it destiny. The only person who ever treated me differently was my grandmother, Eleanor. Grandma raised 3 children by herself after my grandfather died young. She believed respect had to be earned, not demanded. She used to tell me, Olivia, never let people convince you that kindness means surrender. I didn't understand those words until years later. After college, I worked nonstop to pay off my student loans. I rented a tiny apartment. Skipped vacations. Bought used furniture. Meanwhile, Kyle bounced from one failed business idea to another. Every Christmas dinner ended the same way. Mom would sigh dramatically. You know, Olivia, your brother just needs one big opportunity. I wanted to ask why my opportunities never counted. But I stayed quiet. On my 34th birthday, Grandma asked me to meet her for lunch. She looked unusually serious. I have something for you. She slid a small envelope across the table. Inside was a single house key. I stared at it. What is this? She smiled. The Maple Street house. I blinked. The little blue one? She nodded. Years earlier, Grandma had quietly purchased a modest 3-bedroom house as an investment. She rented it to the same elderly couple for over a decade. After they moved into assisted living, the house became vacant. I've transferred it to you. I nearly dropped the key. What? She reached for my hand. You've spent your entire life building something. I want you to finally have a home. I burst into tears right there in the restaurant. I can't accept this. You can. And you will. She laughed. It's my gift. There was only one condition. Don't tell your parents until the paperwork is completely finished. I promised. 3 weeks later, everything became official. The deed was legally transferred into my name. The taxes were updated. Utilities switched over. I spent every weekend painting walls, planting flowers, and repairing little things around the house. For the first time in my life, I truly felt at home. Eventually, I told Mom and Dad. At first, they acted surprised. Then strangely quiet. Mom forced a smile. Well, that's nice. Dad only asked one question. How big is it? I thought nothing of it. Looking back, I should have. About 2 months later, Grandma left on a 6-week European river cruise with several longtime friends. She joked that she planned to ignore all of us until she returned. The week after she left, I had to attend a professional conference in Chicago. I would only be gone for 5 days. Before leaving, I asked my parents if they could water my garden. Mom smiled warmly. Of course. You can always count on family. Those words still make me sick. When I returned home Friday evening, something felt wrong before I even parked. A pickup truck I didn't recognize sat in my driveway. The flower pots I'd arranged were gone. Different curtains hung in the windows. I walked to the front door. My key didn't work. I tried again. Nothing. Then the door opened from inside. My mother smiled as if nothing unusual had happened. Oh. You're back. I stared at her. My key doesn't work. Dad appeared behind her holding a toolbox. We changed the locks. I laughed because my brain refused to understand. What? Mom folded her arms. This house makes more sense for us. I thought she was joking. Until Kyle walked downstairs carrying one of my moving boxes. My stomach dropped. What are you doing? Kyle shrugged. Moving in. I pushed past them. Every room had changed. My bedroom furniture had been shoved into the garage. Family portraits of Mom, Dad, and Kyle covered the walls. My office had become Kyle's gaming room. My clothes were packed into cardboard boxes. It looked like I had never lived there. I turned toward them. This is my house. Dad's expression hardened. Grandma bought it. Exactly. And she's our mother. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The deed is in my name. Mom laughed softly. Paperwork can be fixed. I felt my entire body go cold. What does that mean? Kyle casually tossed me a folder. Inside was a stack of photocopied documents. The signature on one page looked almost like Grandma's. Almost. Another page showed a supposed family property agreement. I had never seen it before. This is fake. Dad stepped closer. You'll understand eventually. We've decided the house belongs to the family. I am family. Mom looked me straight in the eyes. No. You're independent. Kyle needs it more. Those words hurt more than having my house stolen. Not because they chose him. Because they truly believed I should simply accept it. I called the police. An officer arrived 40 minutes later. After looking through everyone's paperwork, he frowned. This appears to be a civil property dispute. Civil. Not criminal. I wanted to scream. Instead, I stood on the sidewalk watching strangers treat the theft of my home like a misunderstanding. That night, I checked into a small hotel. I barely slept. The next morning, I called Grandma. Straight to voicemail. She was somewhere in Europe with no signal. For the next 4 weeks, my parents acted like they owned the house. Neighbors were told I had gifted it to them. Kyle invited friends over for barbecues. Mom even posted pictures online captioned, "Finally enjoying our forever home." Every post felt like another betrayal. Then, exactly 3 days before my parents' 25th wedding anniversary, Grandma called. "I'll be home tomorrow." I burst into tears. She immediately knew something was wrong. But I only said one sentence. "Grandma." They took the house. There was silence on the line. Then she calmly replied, "Good." I blinked. "What?" Her voice became strangely steady. "Don't tell them I know. I have one question to ask at that anniversary party. And after they answer it, their entire lie will collapse." I barely slept the night before my parents' anniversary party. Grandma refused to explain her plan. Every time I asked what she meant, she simply said, "Trust me, Olivia. Some people only tell the truth when they think they've already won." The celebration was held at a country club with nearly 100 guests. Family. Friends. Neighbors. Several of Dad's business clients. Mom looked happier than I'd seen her in years. She greeted everyone by saying, "After 25 wonderful years together, we're finally settled into our forever home." Every time she said those words, I felt sick. Kyle walked around acting like he owned the place. He even joked with relatives. "If you want to see the new house, come over next weekend." I stayed quiet. Grandma arrived 10 minutes late. She wore a navy blue dress and carried her cane, but her eyes were as sharp as ever. She hugged me first. Then she smiled warmly at my parents. "You've planned a beautiful evening." Mom kissed her cheek. "We wanted to make you proud." Grandma smiled. "I'm sure you did." Halfway through dinner, Dad stood to thank everyone for coming. After his speech, Grandma slowly rose from her chair. I'd like to say a few words." The room immediately fell silent. Everyone adored Grandma. She looked around the room with a gentle smile. "Family is built on trust." Heads nodded. "And trust depends on honesty." She paused. "Which brings me to a question." She turned toward my parents. "Who owns the Maple Street house?" Dad answered without hesitation. "We do." Mom smiled confidently. "It has always been our family home." Grandma nodded thoughtfully. "So you're both certain?" "Absolutely," Dad replied. Grandma slowly reached into her purse. "I was hoping you'd say that." She handed an envelope to a man sitting near the front. I recognized him immediately. "Mr. Bennett." Grandma's attorney. Several confused whispers spread across the room. Mr. Bennett stood. "Mrs. Eleanor Harper asked me to attend tonight because she anticipated this exact conversation." He removed several official documents from the envelope. The Maple Street property was legally transferred to Olivia Harper 8 months ago. He held up the certified deed. There have been no subsequent legal transfers. My father's smile disappeared. Mom looked frozen. Then Mr. Bennett continued. "After receiving Olivia's phone call last week, we also hired a forensic document examiner." He lifted another report. "The signatures claiming Mrs. Harper transferred ownership back to her son and daughter-in-law are fraudulent." A loud gasp swept through the room. Kyle suddenly stood. "That's ridiculous." Mr. Bennett calmly looked at him. "It becomes even more serious." He handed another folder to Grandma. She opened it and looked directly at my father. "I have one more question." Dad swallowed hard. "What?" "When exactly did you decide to forge my signature?" The room became completely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Dad opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Mom finally whispered, We thought you would have agreed eventually." Grandma's face hardened. "So instead of asking, you committed fraud." Kyle tried to interrupt. "We only wanted somewhere to live." Grandma looked at him. "You wanted someone else's home. There's a difference." Then came the twist none of us expected. Grandma smiled sadly. "I knew about the fake paperwork before I left for Europe." Everyone stared at her. She continued calmly. "The county recorder's office notified my attorney that someone attempted to file suspicious transfer documents." My heart skipped a beat. "You knew?" She nodded. "I chose not to confront anyone immediately. I wanted to know who would keep lying." She looked directly at my parents. "Now I have my answer." Dad's shoulders slumped. "It's not what it looks like." Grandma shook her head. "No. It's worse. You stole from your own daughter. You lied to your neighbors. And you forged my name." She turned toward Mr. Bennett. "Please proceed." He nodded. "I've already filed emergency legal motions. Temporary possession of the property returns to Olivia immediately." He paused. "The attempted fraudulent filing has also been referred to investigators." My mother's face lost all color. Dad sat down without saying another word. The guests whispered among themselves. Several quietly walked away from my parents' table. The damage to their reputation happened in minutes. But the biggest surprise came after the party ended. As everyone was leaving, Grandma handed me another small envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. "I wrote this 5 years ago," she said. "In case anything ever happened to me." I unfolded it. It explained why she'd chosen me. Not because I was her favorite. Because I'd never once asked her for money. Never expected anything. Never treated her like an opportunity. She had trusted my character more than my last name. I hugged her so tightly that we both cried. Within 2 weeks, a judge ordered my parents and Kyle to move out of the house. Most of my belongings were still there. Some furniture had been damaged. Several sentimental items were missing. But the house was finally mine again. My parents tried calling, then texting, then sending relatives to convince me to let the past go. I politely declined. Trust isn't rebuilt through apologies. It's rebuilt through actions. And some actions leave scars too deep to erase. Months later, I planted a new maple tree in the front yard with Grandma. She smiled as we covered its roots with fresh soil. "This tree won't grow overnight," she said. "It'll take patience." I nodded. "So will I." She squeezed my hand. "Yes. But unlike some people, you've always known how to grow." When I lock my front door each evening now, I don't think about the people who tried to take my home. I think about the woman who believed I deserved one. Because in the end, the greatest gift Grandma ever gave me wasn't that little blue house. It was the courage to stop calling betrayal family and start calling peace my home.